We made it! We are here in Luperon in the Dominican Republic.
And Temptress is on her mooring safely right behind us.
Last time we talked to you, we were coming from Bay Key in Turks and Caicos. We've come a long way since then, so let's get you caught up on what happened in the last 30 days. Hi, I'm Emily.
And I'm Clark.
We opted out of a typical American life to live more independently, frugally, and off the grid.
We currently travel the world aboard our antique sailboat named Temptress.
Each month, we sit down to tell you where we are, what we're doing, share the best and worst moments, answer questions, and tell you exactly how much it costs us to live this life.
This is our adventure log for August 2020. Last we talked, we were anchored behind a rock in the Turks and Caicos. The hurricane had just gone through and the ocean was like a milkshake. You couldn't see through it at all. Well, we took off. We smotored all day right into it. It was still lumpy and bumpy and way too much wind as the season was out there. The Turks and Caicos, the Caicos side of it, there's a huge bank. It's shallow. It was like 8 feet deep most of the trip, I think. There's coral on the heads all over the place, and you usually have to keep a lookout, but with the milkshake we couldn't. So we're traveling and we're having pretty good luck most of the way. At one point we were miles from anything, and all of a sudden there was a rumble and Temptress started going up. We had run up onto a reef. That's very unnerving. It's unnerving for most boats because you're afraid of breaking the boat, but Temptress is really solid. She's a full keel. She can handle that. But if we got stuck on that reef, she's 35,000 pounds. I can't push her. And we were so far away from everything. And if you remember, our radio wasn't working right. So we were very nervous, and she slowed down, and then she went off the other side, and we were floating again. Luckily, that's the only problem we had. We continued. We got to South Caicos, spent a very nice night in a very protected little place, and then traveled over to Sand Key, I believe it's called. Spent some time there, and that afternoon we took off and crossed to Luperon.
And waved goodbye to all the pretty blue water.
Oh yeah. Here it's not the milkshake thing. Here it's just always like a very dark tea. We're up in an estuary with lots of mangroves, and they really make the area biologically active. So there's a lot of growth on the hull, a lot of growth on the propeller, and you really don't care to dive. Where you really want to dive is where the water's dead. That's where it's beautiful.
Once we got here to Luperon, we got our mooring. There's a guy named Handy Andy. There's another guy named Papa. They are local guys who own and manage most of the moorings here. We met Joel and Michael on Bums on a Boat. They've got a pretty cool YouTube channel too. And of course we saw our friend's little sister and sixth girl and the other boats that were scheduled to come down here with us. When we got here, we invited little sister and sixth girl over for a party on her boat. I debuted my song that I wrote about the trip, and it was a really, really great time to just finally be here and be in the right place.
Here in Luperon, it's usually really sunny. We have very consistent weather. It rarely rains. It really only rains when a hurricane comes through, or at least a tropical wave. They come through now and again, but for the most part, it's like this. All morning, it's calm as can be. It's pushing 10 o'clock now, so there's a nice little breeze as it warms up for the day. By afternoon, it'll be quite warm, but there'll be 15 or 20 knots of breeze. It's just a very pleasant way with the weather.
It is hurricane season, so every once in a while we get something like this. And we're not used to being this close to other boats who may or may not have secure moorings, especially the ones upwind of us. That's what the weather looks like. We plan to be in Luperon for quite a few months, so we'll have our $60 a month for our mooring, and we'll also pay $25 a month for a marina fee. That'll give us access to throw away our trash and also use their laundry room.
The marina also gives us a place to park motorcycles. We don't have one ourselves yet anyway, but a lot of our friends have them and they're always willing to loan. The Dominican Republic is much, much bigger than most of the other islands in the Caribbean. And there's mountains and waterfalls and lots of beauty to explore. When this COVID thing calms down a little bit, we're going to be doing a lot of travel. For daily life, we go everywhere on foot.
It's a little hot, but the company is always nice.
Luperon's a small town, but it has really everything we need. It has a really nice pharmacy. We haven't found anything they didn't have in here. And maybe more importantly, greatest little ice cream shop. The ice cream here for the cone I'm about to get is 25 pesos, and that's 42 cents. It's a wonderful deal for us cruisers that never have ice cream because our freezers aren't cold enough and we just can't get it. This is wonderful ice cream. But you must eat it fast because it's very hot here. There isn't a huge supermarket here. Instead, there are lots of little shops. And the prices are great.
Luperon also has a great little hardware store.
I'll bring mine, and now I know. Thank you very much.
After a day around town, we stop for happy hour at the patio.
This is $6.
Breakfast here in Luperon looks a little different because there's a lot more cheap, fresh produce. So there's a lot more vegetables and eggs. We're getting used to a different way of eating. Eggs, and tomatoes, and some homemade peach green tea. This is the third month this year where we spent over our budget, and our monthly budget is $1,000. Our regular living expenses this month came out to $883, but there were a couple things that we hadn't planned out that pushed us over that $1,000 mark. Let's look at the daily expenses first. We spent $240 on groceries this month. Unlike the Bahamas, where we would go to one store and get pretty much everything we needed, and everything was probably 50 to 100% more expensive than it would be in the United States, here in Luperon, there's a lot of little tiny shops and a lot of local produce. There's a local cheese shop, there's a local butcher shop. A lot of this stuff is locally sourced. It's cheaper. It makes the grocery shopping experience take a lot longer because you have to walk between all these different shops, but it makes for a much smaller grocery bill every month. So $240 compared to $465 last month. So that's going to be going down this year. Restaurants here are also very inexpensive. We can both get an entree and get a really big beer for like $10 or $12. So we went out to eat. When we do those grocery shopping days, we get tired and we just kind of stop and we have our lunch day, that week. And that came out to $58 in August. We also spent $10 buying some of those big beers to keep in our own fridge because they're really good. Then for our boat storage cost, normally we're used to just anchoring wherever we go and it's pretty much free. Here in Luperon, the bottom is really muddy and it's really growy, so we don't want to put our anchor down, and there are all these moorings available for $60 a month, which is not bad if that's your rent cost for the month. So we got $60 per month on the mooring, and then we have $25 a month that we pay for the marina that's just really, really close to our boat. So $25 plus $65, that's $85 for our sort of marina cost this month. Our communication bill this month was $88. We've got some really inexpensive internet here through a company called Altice. We also have our Google Fi phone still on and reserving our number even though we're not using that. That's about $20, $25 a month. And I still have my US number with Republic Wireless for work and other things. So our total is $88 for communication. In terms of parts, we spent $36 just on some electrical connectors and things like that we had run out of. We spent $35 on shipping. In the Bahamas, you have to pay a huge duty, a huge tax, and delivery fees on everything that you bring in, and it's really cost prohibitive. In the Dominican Republic, there's this thing called Box Pack. So they have an office in Miami where you can just ship Amazon boxes or eBay boxes. They get them, and then they ship them to you. So for not a whole lot of money, you'll get just about anything you could get in the States. We spent $195 this month on boat furnishings, I'll call it. Most of that was a new mattress for Clark, which took us 2 tries. We got some foam from a friend who went to Puerto Plata, which is the next major city over, and the foam was no good. It ended up collapsing within the first night. So we went here, and locally there's a guy who works on sails and boat upholstery and things like that. He had some great foam, so that ended up being his final mattress. Also, we bought a really great fan. We have 3 of these particular fans. We bought another one because it is hot here, and having a fan is so nice. Even with the air conditioning, we don't run it all the time, but it's nice to have a fan during the day. Lastly, we had a bit of a medical expense this month, which was very interesting, especially because our Spanish is not that great. I went into the hospital for reasons that I'll get into later. We thought it might have been my appendix. Luckily it was not. It just ended up being a minor thing. Got some antibiotics, got treated. But we got an ultrasound, we got a blood test, we got fluids through an IV, we got 2 days of visiting the hospital, and our bill came out to be $136. That's pretty darn cheap compared to what it would have been in the States. And I am feeling better. Everything's good. Lots of antibiotics and kind of a crappy week, but everything turned out fine. So even with that, $883 this month. Now what put us over our $1,000 a month budget was 2 more things. The first is our lithium battery pack that Clark built for my dinghy and the electric motor that I have for my dinghy. The first one we built failed. And it was made with some used cells. Some of them weren't great, and for a variety of reasons it didn't work out. So we've decided to rebuild that battery. Not just to move my dinghy around, but also it hooks right into our battery bank, gives us more capacity, and it's a portable battery. We got it in a waterproof case so we could take it to shore, and instead of bringing a stinky generator or something, we could have that to power our hookah if we're diving. We could have it to power, hair cutting equipment or whatever we want to do on the beach where we don't have power. So $668 for that battery pack, and then we had $70 of just some really basic some housing for our hard drives, which Clark has kind of doctored and taken apart. We had a lot of stuff that got soaked in that last storm coming over from Rum Key to Crooked Island. So we had a lot of things get wet. We're going to be replacing some more things, so we had $70 of expense there. Thank you to our patrons. It makes it really easy for us to just say, hey, that's broken. We need to do that better for videos, and go ahead and buy it. So we really appreciate you guys. So the total with all those things put together comes out to $1,621 this month. Whew, definitely over our $1,000 a month budget. But our year-to-date expense was $8,112, and our monthly average is $1,014. So I'd say we are right on that line of sticking to our $1,000 a month, which is really good.
Speaking of budgets, one of our patrons, Barbara, asked, how much do we spend all in for the year? She just couldn't believe our numbers, I think. She wanted to know about house expenses and insurance and all of these things. Well, we don't have a lot of other expenses. We report almost all of it. We have the month-to-month every adventure log we put out. And in December, we try to cap for the year all of the more permanent expenses that maybe wouldn't show up on a month-to-month. Beyond that, we have our health insurance in the United States. Keep that just in case something bad happens and we have to fly home. But mostly because it's so very cheap. There's a video on that, and we pay like less than $10 for the 2 of us for actually very good coverage. About the only other expense I can think of is the house itself. There's taxes and fire and garbage and all the things they kind of roll into one bill where I live. I've got the house set up in just a very interesting tax way, and it was a bit to do with choosing this house. Our total expenses to hold that house are $530-ish a year. So it's incredibly cheap just to hold it and have it ready when we go back. And it's a concrete house, so there's really very little that can go wrong with it when we're not there. Thanks, Barbara, and if there's any other questions, leave them in the comment section and we'll answer them as best we can.
Well, this is the part where we say thank you. Thank you to our friends who were here in Luperon before us, who helped get us acquainted when we got here. Steve and Jan, you guys are awesome. And thanks for Dale and Kristen enduring the trip with us. And everybody else when we got here to Luperon has been really, really great to us.
Particular thanks to Raymond and John. We mentioned that we, lost that mainsail. They sent us some cash to help for the mainsail fund. I wasn't expecting that at all. So thanks a lot, guys.
If anybody else wants to pitch into the mainsail fund, feel free to check out our links in the description below for Patreon and for PayPal. Lastly, we want to thank Dan and Jeannie and Zen and Joel and Michael and a bunch of other people for giving us some feedback this month. We're playing around a little bit with changing the format of these adventure logs and some of our future videos. I'm in the middle of writing a theme song, so thank you to Ned out there who's helping me produce and add some instrumentation to the theme song that we wrote for our channel. There's some exciting changes coming soon, and they couldn't be possible without the input of other people and from our viewers like you. There's a lot of you out there who are just watching and haven't hit the subscribe button yet. It's free. It helps our channel grow, so if you can hit that red button and click the little bell, that helps our channel grow. Thanks so much for doing that. Stay tuned, and we'll talk to you again soon.
Bye.
Bye.